Hey everyone, welcome to the channel Binary Everest. Today I am super excited to announce the series Linux from Scratch Beginners to Advanced. And this is the very first video of our series. In this video, I will be giving you a brief introduction to Linux. And in the upcoming videos, we'll go through tutorials. We'll be starting right from the basics like file operations, and with command line utilities, operations like creating files, deleting files, moving files. And in the upcoming tutorials we'll go with more advanced topics, and in the later part of the series we'll be doing more advanced things like configuring web servers, configuring load balancers, and so on. I'll try to keep all of my tutorials in depth, to the point, along with hands-on practical. I hope you will enjoy it. So without wasting any time, let's get started with today's video. So what is Linux? Well, Linux is an operating system. Just like we have Windows that provides us graphical user interface to interact with the systems, that provides us an environment to use user level applications like MS Word, PowerPoint, or Adobe softwares, or any other software. So operating systems are the underlying softwares that provides environment to the applications level software, and for users it gives a way to interact with the system. So that is the definition of operating system, and Linux is one of the operating systems. We have other operating systems like Mac, Android, iOS. So similar to that, Linux is also an operating system. But wait, is it really an operating system? Well, to be more technical and precise, it's not an operating system. Rather, it's an operating system kernel. Now the obvious question, what is operating system kernel? It is also a software component that mediates the communication between end user applications and the hardware devices. And having this communication is so important, because all these applications will require these hardware devices to run, and it has to happen only through this kernel. So that's why they call it kernel as a heart of the operating system, because it does the very fundamental things of resource allocation, memory management, basically communications with hardware. And Linux is this kernel. It's not an operating system. In our day-to-day life, we will be using softwares like Microsoft Office Word, PowerPoint, VLC Media Player, and so on. We will be using end user applications, and these applications will require hardware devices to run it. Hardware devices in the sense this will require CPU, memory, disk, or storage, and maybe input output devices or network devices. So these are the hardware components which will be required for this application softwares to operate. But the problem is these applications cannot directly interact with these hardwares. It's because if they start doing so, it will complicate application development a lot, because they will have to see very basic things like memory allocation, CPU allocation, and this task of memory CPU allocation will be redundant in all applications. So it makes a perfect sense to modularize this and give it as a separate component, and that's what the operating system kernel does. It mediates the part of communication with the hardware is done by this piece of software, and application software will write the applications logic instead of doing low level stuffs like memory management. So that is what the kernel does. It mediates the communication between these applications and the underlying hardware. So the basic difference between kernel and operating system is that kernel is just a part of the operating system. It's not an operating system entirely. An operating system has to have a lot of software components like graphical user interface, command line interface, security modules, file managers, and lot. So basically, operating system is like a package of lots of software, and one of its software is kernel, which is notably the most important one. And Linux is this kernel. So using this kernel, operating systems are made. You can see the examples here: Ubuntu, Debian, SUSE, Kali Linux, Fedora, CentOS, Manjaro. These are all the operating systems. Now these are not the kernel alone. They use Linux as their kernel, and they have lots of other packages on top of Linux kernel. That's why they are called as Linux based operating systems, or they're also known as Linux distros. So they're not kernel alone. They will have a lot of packages and softwares added on top of this core Linux kernel. So these are the most common and famous Linux distributions, but in market there are a lot and lots of Linux distros. You can see I had one Google search here. how many Linux distros are there. There are over 600 actively maintained Linux distribution. You can see the number 600. It's a very huge number for operating systems. I never expected that there will be 600 operating systems in the market, and potentially thousands in total. You can see, and this is the family tree of Linux. You can see here, this is the core, kernel, and branching out of this kernel, all of this we can't even see here. I had got this image from Wikipedia, and it was so large I had to, this is cropped image. If you are interested, you can go and check. I'll attach the link in description. So this is the family tree of Linux. And do you know why these many distributions exist? One of the main reasons is that Linux is an open source operating system kernel, so anyone can use it. So people will be doing lots of experiments, or they might be customizing it for their own purposes. And this distribution also emerged out of different kinds of requirements in different fields. For example, someone who wants to use Linux for day-to-day purpose will have different sets of softwares as his requirements, and someone who is using Linux as a server will have different sets of software as their requirement. Someone working in security might need security tools to be installed. So based on these requirements, different fields used different sets of software. So to fulfill these requirement differences, all these distributions emerged out. So now let's talk about the popularity of Linux and areas of applications. So to talk about its popularity, it is more popular in case of servers. You can see here, I had a Google search, how many percent of servers are Linux. It shows 96.3%. That's a huge share. So it is a very famous operating system in case of servers, and also for desktop environments. Operating systems like Ubuntu comes with a beautiful graphical user interface. Well, this has been provided by something called as GNOME, or better GNOME. So this graphical user interface, these are all part of this Ubuntu. So it's common to use Linux as desktop environment as well. Other is embedded systems. Embedded system refers to the systems like systems in fridge, your systems in car, smartwatches, those low powered devices which has resource constraint. All those systems will be running Linux under hood. Even in case of supercomputers, you see Linux has a so wide support for different kinds of hardware that it is even used in supercomputers. Now you can analyze its importance. And it is also used in the areas where security matters most, like aerospace and defense. And it is also used in case of scientific research. And let me tell you, companies like NASA uses Linux operating system. So that is about its popularity. And one of the reasons for which this is so popular is because of its open source nature and probably its beautiful design. You can see the code is entirely available on GitHub, and this GitHub repository has been created by this guy named Linus Torvald. Something he started as a hobby project turned out to be so magnificent that today it runs on billions of devices. Let me take it to the repository itself. You can see here, this repository is available on github.com/Torvalds. The name of the guy is Linus Torvalds /Linux. And you can see this is the code that runs on billions of devices, and lots of people are contributing to it. And if you see here, number of comments, it's over 1 million. So let me take you to the profile of Linus. And if you see here the coding consistency, you can see he is coding literally every single day, and in his most of his contribution is still on the same repository. You can see here, this man has been coding every single day to make this product even more beautiful and powerful. So a huge appreciation to Linus for creating such a magnificent project and keeping it free for all. So with this, I'd like to wrap up today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.